sit back, relax, and let's have a chapter chat. I'm your host, Jessica Foster, and today we have author Nicola Harrison with us, and she has a brand new book out, and it is fantastic. I can't put it down. The Island Club. Thanks so much for joining us, Nicola.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
You're getting a lot of buzz with the Island Club. So for those listeners who haven't read it yet, let's give them a brief synopsis.
Sure. So the Island Club is set on Balboa Island in Newport Beach, California, in the 1950s. And that's an idyllic, sun-soaked enclave of Southern California. But inside that picture-perfect community, there are three women whose lives are unraveling in very different ways. So we've got Millie Kincaid, who's a young, hassled mother of two, who's struggling to keep her marriage together. And then there's Sylvia, who's a powerful society matriarch who'll do anything to kind of protect her family's legacy. And then there's Adele, who is living as a recluse on the island and hiding out from a career-ending scandal that happened years earlier. So these three women are very different, different ages, different social standings. And what they realize along the way is that an unlikely friendship and tennis might just be the one thing that can save them.
And so I want to know a little bit about how you came up with the premise of this book. And are you a tennis player?
I am now.
Yeah.
So this came about, I moved from Manhattan, New York to Manhattan Beach, California in 2020. So it was during the pandemic. And, it's kind of a difficult age to make new friends when you're an adult. People are sort of established in their lives already. And, they've got their friends and their kids have friends. And there's sort of people are sort of set up when you're sort of in your early 40s. So I moved to this new town and I happened to meet some women and they were like, hey, we're going to take this tennis lesson, this group tennis lesson. You should join us. And to be honest, I didn't really want to. I'm not really I wasn't really a sporty person. I did dance growing up and everything, but had never set foot on a tennis court before. And so I reluctantly agreed, mostly to just make friends with these women. And sure enough, after a few lessons, we've all started getting the hang of it and quickly became very addicted. And but what I discovered through tennis, through this activity, is not just a love for the sport, but I really developed this incredible community of women who are in all different walks of life. And, now we're on this team together and there's 30 of us and we've got an ER doctor and an accountant and a PTA president and someone's raising 5 kids, so everyone's very busy. And I think what we learned along the way is that we're all busy, we're all, successful and, keeping busy in our lives. But I think as you get older, you sort of forget to find time for yourself to play. As a woman, there's so much invisible labor that we do and so many responsibilities, and we're taking care of so many people that you forget to carve out time for yourself. And so this sport, tennis, really helped us, carve out time for ourselves and not forget to do that and still have fun and play.
I love that. And it is such an important reminder, too, that we do have to take time for ourselves. We are so focused on the kids or work and our husband's family, all of the things. Yeah, that it's important to do some self-care, too. And that may just be on the tennis court.
Exactly, whether it's tennis or pickleball or some sort of creative pursuit, taking a pottery class, whatever it is that interests you, it's important to remember to do that for yourself. And so that really became the inspiration for this novel. And I started to ask myself, okay, what happens when a woman gives herself permission to try something new? What happens when you open that door? And it can be exciting, it can be fun, but there could be a little danger on the other side.
How long did it take you to write this specific novel?
So this one took me about 1.5 to 2 years once you add in the editing and everything. Yeah, so it takes a while. And then it also takes a while for the once it's in the hands of the publisher, for them to come up with the cover and do all the copy editing and to get it into the hands of the readers. So I've been like, come on, I'm so excited for this book to get out into the world, and it's finally here.
And I have to say, the cover is absolutely beautiful. I have to show how beautiful this cover is. I love it.
I know. I love it. It's my favorite cover of all my novels so far. And this one was really fun because it was an artist named Kristen Kumi, who the art director who created the cover contacted and asked if she could, if they could commission her for this art. And what was so fun is, as I've been on book tour yesterday in Georgia, the artist came to my event, and I got to meet her and talk to her about the process of having her art on the cover of a book. So it's been a really fun experience. I love the cover, and I love meeting the artist behind it.
Well, and I have just been fascinated by the story because I do feel that connection with the female friendships. And I like that you set this in the 1950s. What was your inspiration behind that time period?
Yeah, so I think the 50s are just such an interesting time. It's, from the outside, it can come across as a very carefree and charming decade. You think of women in sundresses, a cocktail in hands on the patio, and the kids are out riding their bike until it gets dark. It just seems very carefree. But, in reality, it was a very constricted time for women. Women were expected to raise perfectly well-behaved children and maintain an immaculate home and keep up with appearances, all while kind of suppressing their own dreams. And I was interested in my previous novel, Hotel Laguna. I had written about women who worked on the home front during World War II, in airplane factories and ammunition plants. And they'd really had a taste of independence for the first time, working outside the home for the first time, making money. And so I was interested in how that translated over into the next decade, and to see that sort of tension in the households, what it's like for women who've had this taste of independence and have had a chance to make money, and had these doors open for them, but then they're told to shrink back and go back to being housewives.
Wouldn't that be hard?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I think that was a struggle for some of my characters. Although one of my characters, Millie, she really, that was her whole dream. She wanted to be a mother. She wanted to be a housewife. She had trained for it. In college, she took a marital arts class, and she read all the magazines and sort of trained for this. And so when her life and her marriage doesn't turn out quite as she expects, she's sort of grieving that life that she wanted. And one of the things I did for research is I always do this when I'm researching a new decade. I buy a bunch of old magazines from eBay. So I bought a stack of Ladies' Home Journal and 17 and Good Housekeeping, and it was just so fun to read through all the articles and the advertisements too. I mean, I've never seen women so excited about Brillo soap pads before. They're all the articles and advertisements are geared towards, cleaning your house, having looking beautiful when your husband gets home from work, having a gin and tonic ready for him when he walks in the door. And it was just a different time period, just a different time.
Yes, and I think that is a great way to do research too.
Right. Yes. Yes, because that's what all the women at the time were reading. That was sort of what was being fed to them. And so, they felt like they had to keep up with it.
I think that we are so lucky in the time period that we're here in now. And of course, we still have some areas that we could improve in. But I think women, we do have choices. If you want to stay home and work from home, you can do that. If you want to be a stay-at-home mom raising children, you can do that. If you want to be a career woman balancing many things, you can do that.
Exactly. It's all about now having those options and having those choices so you can figure out what works for you. But I think, back in the 50s, it was sort of like there was a one direction, one way to go, that was expected. That was sort of like the societal expectation of the time. So it's certainly nice now to have a lot of options.
And this is a second career for you.
It is. Yes, yes. I worked as a fashion journalist in New York City. I worked for a men's fashion trade publication for a while, which is kind of like Women's Wear Daily for men. And then I worked as the style writer for Forbes for men and women's fashion. So that was a lot of fun. I had a professor in college, a mentor, who said, because I studied English and creative writing in college. And when we were graduating, she said, don't go out and try to write a novel now because you have nothing to say. You're so young. You have to get out there, have some life experience under your belt, get a job, have a relationship, go through a breakup. You have to have some of that real life experience under your belt, and then you'll have something to say. So I really took her advice to heart, and I moved to New York City and worked as a fashion journalist, which I loved. I did it for many years. But even when I was writing articles during the day, I was always tapping away on a novel or something creative on the side. And that eventually became my first novel, Montauk, which published in 2019.
And I think those life experiences do make you a better author.
Yes, yes, you have to have that, experiences and things that you can pour into your characters. You don't necessarily have to do all the things that your characters do. I mean, I certainly would be in trouble if I did all the things that my characters do. But you can tap into those emotions, feelings of regret, feelings of, ambition, desire, those kinds of things. You can really tap into those. And I think that's what makes my female characters come to life.
And that is something that I've noticed in your writing. It's very easy to picture the characters and feel what the characters are feeling because of the descriptions that you use. But it's not so overly descriptive that you lose the plot.
Right, right.
And
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
to commend you on that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad that works. I try to write my female characters as honestly as possible. And I do hope when people read my books that if they see a little piece of themselves in these characters and they feel a little more seen or a little more understood or a little less lonely, connecting with something that they've gone through in their own life, then I feel like I've said, accomplished what I set out to do.
And you also have a master's, an MFA.
Yes, I do. I do. So after my journalism career, I went back to school part-time. I had my son at home, so I just did part-time. And I don't think it's necessary to get an MFA to write a novel, but I did it for me because it allows you to, just a concentrated couple of years to work on your craft and to meet other authors and other writers and just really immerse yourself in that world. So it was really helpful to me to do that. It was a lot of fun.
So let's talk about your big break and how you got that first publishing deal. How did that come about?
Yeah, so I had finished my first novel, Montauk, and it was time to start looking. You have to find an agent first, and then the agent finds you the editor. And I didn't know any agents, so I just thought to myself, well, which books have I read lately that I enjoyed? And then I'll look up and see who the editor, who the agent is for that book. And so I had recently, at the time, read Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. And so I looked up to see who her agent was, and so I reached out to her. I sent her my novel, and she loved it, and she ended up becoming my agent. So that was sort of the big break. And then she found me my publisher, St. Martin's Press, and it's been go from there. Have my dream job.
Wow. And it's amazing to just reach out to an agent and get that agent right away, too.
Yes, yes, because I'd heard so many horror stories about
Right.
all the rejection letters you get and everything, and we just connected right away. So it's about meeting the right person at the right time.
Well, I think probably your journalism background allowed you to do the necessary research so you knew who you would connect with.
Yes, yes. And I think, all of my novels so far have been historical fiction set in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, and now the 50s. And I think my journalism background um, helped with the historical fiction element because I think taking that leap from journalism where everything is fact, who, what, when, where, why, and then leaping right into fiction felt like a big jump for me. It's like, am I allowed to just make things up? And so grounding it in something historical and incorporating, elements that really happened historically in these decades really helped me ground the story in some reality, in some truth, and then build a fictionalized story around that. So it sort of just worked. The journalism background just worked with the historical fiction storytelling.
Oh, I can relate to that 100% because as a journalist, the thought of writing fiction is sometimes daunting because
yes, a little bit terrifying, right?
Yes, you're like, well, I can't just make it up.
No.
Right. And if that person did that, they could get in trouble.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So being able to, I go on a deep dive, whatever time period I'm studying, I go on a deep dive into that and I learn as much as I can for several months before I even put a word on the page. Because I want to have a big overall picture of the decade, of the time period. And one of the other things I do is I really study the place that I'm writing about. So this novel is set on Balboa Island, which is in Southern California, about an hour south of Los Angeles. And what I discovered during my research is that Balboa Island used to be the spring break destination for all the California college kids to go. And I had no idea about this. This was before Cancun and Cabo and South Padre Island. Everyone descended on this little tiny island, and people would rent out their houses and rent out rooms. And there was a big ballroom called the Rendezvous Ballroom that all the kids would go dancing at night, and all the big bands of the time would play there. And there were, dancing on the beach and bonfires. And there was a big bathing beauty contest where they looked for Miss Balboa. So that makes it into the book. So it was a really fun backdrop for me to set this novel while all of that was going on Balboa Island.
Yes, I liked those little elements in the book too. I thought that was great. And again, like you said, grounding it in something that actually took place.
Right, exactly.
So are you already working on your next project? I know right now you are in the middle of a book tour and all of those things, but are you also working on your next project?
I am, always. Because, like I said, this book I turned into my editor a while ago, and so I've been waiting for it to come out. So in the meantime, I've been working on my next project, and this one's a little different for me. I'm from England originally. I moved to California when I was 14. So I grew up in a little town in the Cotswolds in England, which is a beautiful part of the country, and what I realize is this little town I grew up in has so much history. There's a big castle there called Sudeley Castle where Henry VIII's last wife, Catherine Parr, used to live. And of course, as a kid, I used to go and we used to run around the grounds and play at the playground and didn't care about the history as a little kid. And now I look back on it and I'm like, that is rich with history. I have to set a novel there. And so that's where the next one is taking place.
I love that you set that in England because I visited England for the first time 2 years ago and went to London and fell in love with it.
Yes. Yes, there's a lot to fall in love with. And London, I love London so much. I could spend so much time there. But if you go again, try to branch out to the Cotswolds because it's I think it's about a 2-hour train ride or drive south, and it's like a different world. I mean, you go hiking there, there's so many sheep, lots of little places to go and have cream teas in the afternoon, and it's just beautiful. It was a good excuse for me to go back to last year, drag my family along for a research trip.
Hey, that's not a bad gig, is it?
Not too bad.
When I came back from my trip, I kept wanting tea, and I just cannot get it to taste the same here in the States.
Oh, well, I order mine, PG Tips.
Oh.
That's the tea bag that I have, and it tastes very English.
Okay. Yeah, and then also just the cream and the sugar cubes and all, I don't know. It was something about being there.
Yes, exactly. It tastes different in England. What can you say?
I know. It's just an excuse to go back.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk a little bit about your book tour and how that's going so far.
Yeah, it's been so fun. It's we've My mom is coming with me. This is my third book tour that she has come with me because it's a lot of driving from city to city. Sometimes it's flying, but sometimes it's driving, and so it's really nice to have the company. Plus, yesterday we had Mother's Day, which was also her birthday, so we've been able to spend a lot of time together. So it's been fun. So we've done 13 cities. Well, by the end of it, we will have done 13 cities in 15 days, and it's been so wonderful to meet so many readers. As a writer, it's a very solitary profession. You're writing your book by yourself, often in your pajamas at home, tapping away on that laptop. And and so when it finally comes out into the world, it's really nice to be able to get out there and talk to people about it and talk about the research and inspiration behind it. And also, what's so nice is to meet people who have some connection to the place or to the time period, and they tell you their stories or their grandmother's stories. And so it's just really nice to make those connections along the way.
And would you say that you're more of an extrovert or an introvert?
I'm probably more of an introvert, like being able to switch it up. I like being able to change the hats. You're in the writing process, and then you're in the getting out and meeting people stage. It's nice to have both.
And I've talked to a lot of authors who talk about how it is a solitary profession, but then they like that moment where they do get to connect with the readers too. So they say that
Exactly.
that's very rewarding because you have spent so much time alone.
Yes, it's so true. And also the author community is really wonderful. It's one of these businesses where everyone is just lifting each other up and calling out people's books, and because there's really no competition. No book is like another book. It's like you find the book that you enjoy, and there's just so many books out there to read. So it's really just a wonderful community of authors also cheering each other along.
That's something else that I have noticed. You would think that it would be, highly competitive, cutthroat, and that is not what I have found at all.
No, it's not the case, and obviously that's the case in a lot of industries, but it does not seem to be the case in the writing world.
And I think that that is glorious because the more people reading, the better off our society is.
Exactly. Yes. Let's get people off their phones and get their noses into some books.
Yes, yes. I have seen a resurgence, though. I think that it is cool to read again.
I think so too. I've seen that also. Yes. And there's so many book clubs out there now. So it's really about people reading and then sharing stories and connecting with these characters and passing the word on of books to other people. So it's really becoming not just about being reading by yourself. It's really about joining other communities and getting out to author events at bookstores. They're really fun. They're really fun.
They are. If you've never been to one, we encourage you to do so
Yes,
because it is fun.
exactly.
Either an author event or a book club. Do it.
Yes, exactly. Do it.
A lot of people are saying that this book is perfect for your beach bag. And I think that sometimes beach reads get a bad rap, as in maybe they're fluffy or there's no depth. And that is not true at all.
Yeah, I've heard that too. I've heard that too. I don't really care when people say that. I'm like, if you want to, I mean, as long as you're reading something, that just makes me happy. And I think, for me, any good book that transports you to another time or place would be perfect as a beach read, but also any book works as a beach read. I think the summer just gives people often have a little extra time in the summer. Kids are off school. You're not like trying to get everyone to all the places all the time. It's a little bit more relaxed, so it's a good time to have more time to read. And if that ends up being on the beach, great. Or if it's in your living room or sitting outside on your porch, perfect.
Just read anywhere.
Yes, exactly.
Well, is there any message that you want to get out to your readers?
Yeah, I think, I was really interested in writing about female friendship in this book. So I sort of went on a deep dive into that. And I think, our female friends can really be a lifeline to us along the way. I know that I've had friends who have been a lifeline for me during challenging times, and I hope that I have been that for some of my friends. These friendships can really lift us up, challenge us, and help us find our courage and strength during difficult times. So I hope this book is a reminder that just to nurture those friendships, especially as you get older and busier with other things, with life. It's important to maintain those friendships. And it's also, sometimes when you're going through a difficult time, it's an unexpected friend who comes forward to be there for you and be the support. So I try to remind myself to be that person also, and to be there for friends when they're going through things that are tough. I also hope that this book reminds people that it's never too late to begin again, and that the right woman walking into your life at the right time can kind of change everything.
I think that is a wonderful message, and we feel like we have been talking to a friend we've known our whole life today. So
Oh,
thank
thank
you.
you. Yes, me too. Thank you so much. This is so great chatting with you.
Yes, and if you have not read The Island Club yet, you've got to get your hands on it because it is fantastic. Nicola, thank you for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
You've been listening to Chapter Chat. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Happy reading!